I want to welcome you this morning, and am I on? Yes. I want to welcome you and say to the fathers, Happy Father's Day. Dads, would you do me a favor? Would you stand so we can applaud you and say, Happy Father's Day. It's a good day. Ours started badly because my wife forgot we had a breakfast this morning at the church. You didn't? You didn't remind me. I didn't forget. I just wanted to be where you were. Oral, I'm so sorry. I blew out of my mind and we got here late. Well, I am glad you're here, and let me go over a couple of announcements. First of all, pray for our young people. Steve and team early this morning headed off for X-Fuge with 15 of our students, and so keep them in prayer if you would. No service tonight. Just time, take dads out to dinner if you would. Now, let's talk about Helping Hands. Helping Hands is in need of your helping hands, and in the bulletin are a number of items that are needed by Helping Hands, also some volunteers for Helping Hands. And I'm going to ask you, if you would, to speak to Coach Neil. Coach, would you mind standing so they can recognize you? He's our new coordinator of Helping Hands. So if you would speak to him at the end of the service, and let him know that you're willing to help, or you're willing to bring stuff, and you have stuff that you are willing to bring. Next Sunday is our lunch. You can eat in or take out for the Cuba mission. It's tickets on sale, $10 a meal. You just grab and go if you need to. And that's to raise money for our Cuba mission. The team leaves at the end of July. In the evening next Sunday, we have our very own Nashville recording artist, Cheyenne Rose. She'll be in concert here. She came through our Bellevue Christian Academy and is on the circuit, so it'll be a good concert, and I trust you will make a note of it in your calendar. Now, speaking of raising money, if you recall, during VBS, and it was a wonderful VBS, the boys and girls brought change. In other words, hard money, not soft money, and we encouraged them to persuade their dads and moms to take the change out of their pockets. And anyway, they brought money, and it was matched by our mission team to sink one well in Mozambique, in one of the rural villages. The cost is $3,500. Well, the total brought in, including the help from the mission committee, was $3,680. You now have a well going in Mozambique. Might not have your name on it, but it'll have your heart on it. And that's a wonderful thing to do. All right, I've mentioned the summer concerts. I've mentioned everything that needs to be known. We extend our sympathy to the Saputo family here this morning, and also to the Lacrone family who lost their mother over the weekend. This morning our speaker is someone that I am always challenged by. Greg King is our chairman of trustees. He's an attorney in Ocala. He does hours and hours and hours of work pro bono for us as a church, and I want to tell you, it's a lot of work. He served in the police department here, then the sheriff's department, and then went on to study and become an attorney. He's been a member of this church for, mentioned he was chairman of trustees, been a member of the church for many, many years, along with his lovely wife Carrie, who has been a faithful, committed servant in the children's department for more years than I know about. Would you simply welcome him to the pulpit this morning? By the way, including those watching, he's a great attorney. All right, if you're visiting this morning and you are a first-time visitor, we'd like to know a little bit about you. The men will wait on you. And if you would kindly put your hand up and receive a package of information. If you are a visitor, there's a young man in the middle there, Jack, to your left. I don't know if he was being serious or just...
No, he is serious.
Anybody else? Upstairs, downstairs? There's a lady there, Jack, to your left.
Which left?
All right. It is never wise of a preacher to try and say things when you have a guest speaker because you don't want to muddy the water, but I do want to say just one thing. And I say this as a father of 3 daughters, and our youngest daughter, beloved Kerry, is here with us. Kerry stays in an assisted living center nearby, and she is able to come home. The other girls are very busy at the moment, having gone through some traumatic times in their marriages. The time really upon us is to challenge men to recognize that their children are so crucial and important to them, especially as you raise them, because this is the day that they reflect who you are as a father. And sometimes it's a day that you look back on with memories of regret. I pray, Dad, that you have good memories of your children, they have good things to say about you, and you can enjoy this day thoroughly. I will. It's my choice where we go to dinner later today, and despite anybody else's choice, I get to choose. So dads, I hope you get to choose where you go later. This is the day the Lord has made. We always shall rejoice. Be glad in it. Let's stand up and greet one another in Jesus' name.
Will the ushers please come forward? What a great day we have today to praise fathers, but Father above, we praise you with your holy name, that you would give us this opportunity as fathers to reflect the love that you've given to us. We ask you, Lord, to bless those who are about to give gifts and those who will receive them, that your will be done. We ask you, Lord, to bless the families and the fathers as they go off today and celebrate. We ask this in Jesus Christ's most precious and holy name. Amen.
On this Father's Day, I'd like to invite you to stand with us as we continue to lift our voices in worship. And let's sing together, All Hail the Power of Jesus' Name.
Bring forth
accused me of bringing a song before you today in which you will think they're singing in tongues. I'll let you interpret. But there's a great phrase that came from the old church when people would pray, and they would pray and say, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. And the Latin for that is Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. And so that's what we want to sing for this morning, a song with a good bit of Latin in it, Kyrie.
Have mercy, Christ eleison. Good morning. While they're coming down, you're supposed to start off a presentation with an attention getter, and I was going to do a Rob Petrie up these steps here, but I was afraid I couldn't get up off the ground. And then I thought, how many people out there knew what I'm talking about when I talk about Rob Petrie? Yeah, see, I was afraid of that. I was afraid of that. Rob Petrie was a TV father. Television shows, Dick Van Dyke show. Dick Van Dyke tripped over an ottoman at the start of every show and fell on the ground and got up. All right, I'm beyond your years, I see that. But that's going to come in important here in a few minutes when I start talking about statistics. Today I want to talk to fathers about fatherhood in post-Christian America. Billy Graham said, a good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, but most valuable assets in our society. Now, as proof of the unsung, unpraised, and unnoticed part, in a national survey about Mother's Day and Father's Day, if they fell on the same day, 78% of adult children would choose to celebrate mom over dad. The survey revealed people thought they'd get a much bigger guilt trip from their mother than they would from their father, which I think is probably true. According to the National Retail Federation, Americans are expected to spend about $7.4 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars less on gifts and goodies for dads this Father's Day than they spent on moms for Mother's Day last month. According to Lifeway Research, and if you don't know who Lifeway Research is, Lifeway is in Fabulous Vatican in Nashville, Tennessee. Father's Day is the holiday with the single lowest average church attendance, statistically lower than Labor Day, Memorial Day, and even the 4th of July. This is telling when you consider that Mother's Day tends to be the day with the third highest church service attendance, following only Easter and Christmas. And last but not least, there's this woman from Australia. I don't know whether y'all have seen this or not, but for several years now, she's been waging a campaign to change Father's Day to Special Persons Day. Yeah, true. Look it up. Go Google it. She's looking to change the day. Now, she hasn't said anything about changing Mother's Day, but she doesn't think we need a Father's Day. It needs to be Special Persons, and I'm not sure who falls in those special persons, and maybe I don't want to know who falls in those special persons. On Mother's Day, we generally hear a message that moms are amazing. They're like human unicorns, special, beautiful, smelling of lavender and night jasmine, deserving of our gratitude and our complete affection, and pedicures. We say, mothers, please stand up so we can shower you with applause and have the ushers give you roses commemorating this moment when we, the body of Christ, were allowed to bask in your combined love. On Father's Day, however, we are more likely to hear, and you're more likely to hear it today too, dads, what are you doing? Seriously, get your act together. It's time to be leaders of your households. It's time to put away jobs that consume you. It's time to put down your smartphone and serve your family with your heart and your soul. Cowboy up already. Your role is critical to the family, and it's time for you to get motivated and active in your family, your community, and your world. And all of that is absolutely true, as you're soon going to see. Our culture in general has reduced the role of fatherhood, along with marriage itself, to something non-essential or unnecessary. You don't need to be married today to have a family, to have children. You don't have to have a father involved in a parental role in a family. It's just something that's not needed. Even men today regard parenting as being primarily the mother's role, and somehow no longer associated with masculinity or real manhood. Instead, many have succumbed to the modern cultural caricatures encouraged by feminist psychology and the primitive label of hunter-gatherer, and thus assume that this is their main contribution to the family. As a result, too many men, including professing Christians, express their role as father exclusively in terms of financial provider. The fact is, children are not looking for financial provision. Children are looking for love and guidance and a role model for what it means to be a man. During the colonial period in America, men defined themselves by their level of community involvement and fatherhood. Marriage and fatherhood were seen as being among the highest aspirations in a man's life. Today, the highest aspirations of men seem to be career success and personal leisure. And against these two things, they seek to balance marriage and family instead of the other way around. Marriage and family should be their highest aspirations. And they should seek to balance career and personal leisure against those two priorities. The lack of actively involved fathers has produced societal conditions necessitating the intervention of the government. It is a sobering situation when the government is compelled to respond to the failure of such a fundamental institution as the family. In 2001, which is a long time ago now, 18 years ago, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services launched its Fatherhood Initiative with this statement: the President is determined to make committed, responsible fatherhood a national priority. The presence of two committed, involved parents contributes directly to better school performance, reduced substance abuse, less crime and delinquency behavioral problems, less risk of abuse or neglect, and lower risk of teen suicide. The research is clear. Fathers factor significantly in the lives of their children. There is simply no substitute for the love, involvement, and commitment of a responsible father. Now, meanwhile, Hollywood shows complete disrespect for fathers. Research by the University of Massachusetts confirms that not so long ago, television fathers were portrayed as wise, caring, and moral. Today, fathers are portrayed by Hollywood as stupid, incompetent, and unengaged. Gone are the Rob Petries, the Ward Cleavers, the Jim Andersons, and the Andy Taylors. In fact, few of the present generation of fathers of young children even know who these characters were. They've been replaced by buffoons like Howard Simpson and Ed Bundy and Peter Griffin and Hank Hill. In fact, Christians and men are the only two groups you can disrespect with impunity in our current society. If you disrespect women, you're a woman hater, and the feminists will picket you. If you disrespect minorities, you're a racist, and you'll get a visit from Jesse Jackson. If you disrespect other religions, or even atheists, you're intolerant. But if you disrespect men, it's funny, it's entertainment, and no one gives a rat's backside. Note the new feminist buzz phrase, toxic masculinity. It is used to describe men who lead, who are manly, who are no nonsense, the John Wayne and Clint Eastwood types, rather than girly men. Just last weekend, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of D-Day. Think about where we would be today if it hadn't been for that particular dose of toxic masculinity. Gentlemen, and here's the point of all that I've said before, and if you take it as negative, it really wasn't. I was preparing you for this. You're living in probably the most difficult period in all history to be a father. A post-Christian America, an America that has traded the truth of God for a lie. Romans 1, beginning at 24, says, "Therefore God gave them up in the lust of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And the men likewise gave up natural relations with women, and were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men, and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind, to do what ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. The tolerance of today. Written 2,000 years ago, those verses describe the situation in America today to a T. Everything that was said there is what we see going on day in and day out in the United States of America. We have become too tolerant. And part of that blame falls directly on fathers. Because it's a father's job to teach those things. Not so long ago, it was easier for fathers. You ran into faith wherever you went because it dominated the culture. You would hear it on TV and the radio, you hear it on the streets, at public events, everywhere. When I was in elementary school, we started out every day with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and the Lord's Prayer. We started every high school activity with the national anthem and an invocation. We said a blessing before every meeting. But the Christian worldview is no longer the dominant worldview. It is the exception to run into Christ, not the rule. We point out other people who say a blessing in a public place before a meal because it's unusual to see. So, how do you be the father your children need and deserve in a post-Christian America? You go back to the basics. Amen. First is your salvation. It gets you to heaven. Make sure you are saved. Now, there are plenty of people who think they are Christians, who say they are Christians, who claim to be Christians, who aren't saved. Amen. Be sure you're saved. Second, know the truth. Study the truth. Listen to the truth. Why did Jesus come to earth? Now, you ask this question of a group of people, and Celeste answers, and you'll get a lot of them. Most of them sound correct. He came to save our souls. He came so we would have a way to heaven. He came for this, he came for that, he came for the other thing. But Jesus tells us in no uncertain terms why he came. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice. John 18:37. You don't have to wonder why Jesus came, and you don't have to wonder what the truth is. It's what Jesus speaks, what the Bible says. The truth is there for you in black and white. The Bible is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So to know the truth, go to the Bible. To hear Jesus speaking, go to the Bible. Here are a few truths that men need to know and understand in order to be the fathers their children need. What were you created for? What was man created for? He was created to rule over the earth. Genesis 1:26. Very first chapter in the Bible. Why was man created? To rule over the earth. What was woman created for? Comes right along in chapter 2, verse 18, to be his helper. How did these roles get reversed? And they're reversed in today's society. We know that they're reversed. Genesis 3:1, Satan said to the woman, "Did God actually say, 'You shall not eat of any tree in the garden?' And the woman said to the serpent, 'We may eat of the fruit of trees in the garden, but God said, You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die.'" Now God didn't say, "Neither shall you touch it." That wasn't part of God's command. The woman added that when she was talking to Satan. Understand this, gentlemen. God doesn't need your help. He doesn't need you to create a justification for his decrees, his rules, and his commands. The truth needs no explanation nor defense. Don't do it. Take it as it is. Take it exactly as it is. But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die." Okay, now someone's lying here. Okay? She said, God said you would die. Satan said, "No, you shall not surely die." So somebody's lying. And I give you a hint. Anytime you have a choice between is it God lying or is it Satan lying, and in fact is it between anybody lying and Satan lying, choose Satan every time. Because Satan is a liar. When he lies, he speaks his native language. For he is a liar and the father of lies. John 8:44. Back to Genesis, for God knows when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate it. Now she didn't consult with Adam, her husband, before she acted and made an independent, irreversible decision for all of mankind, for all time. And then she gave some to her husband, and he ate. They both traded the truth of God for a lie. After this, who did God come looking for? Came looking for the man, Genesis 3:8, and they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord called to the man. Why didn't he call to the woman? She was the one that was deceived. She ate the fruit first. She brought it to her husband and got him to eat the fruit. So why the man? Because God left him in charge. And when the helper messes up, The big boss doesn't go to the helper. He goes to the guy who was left in charge of seeing that the helper did the thing right. Now, God starts handing out punishment at this point, and it's important to understand what punishment was and why it was meted out. And we wonder sometimes today how there can be so much conflict in marriage, being that it's an institution of God, that God ordained it. But it's not all that hard if you go back and read, because it was part of the punishment. Genesis 3:16, to the woman he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you. So what she's going to want, part of the punishment is, what she's going to want is going to be contrary to what he wants. And so there's always going to be that type of conflict that has to be resolved. Now, the question of who God put in charge is answered unequivocally right here. But he shall rule over you. He's the one God's going to come looking for when things get messed up. He's the one that has to make the final decision. Now, why did God punish the man? And there's a lot of talk about this, and some people say that he got punished because he listened to his wife. And that's kind of what the Bible says, but that really isn't the full extent of it. You need to understand what the Bible's saying there. And to Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Well, he didn't get punished for listening to his wife. He got punished for doing what his wife told him to do in the face of him knowing precisely that God had told him not to do that thing. She was deceived. Satan deceived her into eating fruit. He made a conscious decision to disobey God. And that's where we got today. And so that's why you work and you earn your bread and the sweat of your brow, and thorns and thistles grow up. If you're a farmer, thorns and thistles grow up instead of the good food, and you have to deal with those things because Adam made a conscious decision to disobey God. You as a father have an absolute duty to obey God no matter what anyone else wants you to do or tells you to do. He has given you the intellect, he has given you the tools to know the truth and to know the decisions that you should make. There's no question that you can ask that's not answered in this book called the Bible. All the answers are right here. You can't go to God when it comes that time and it's the judgment time, and the judge starts asking you, why did you do this or why did you do that? And the answer, well, I didn't know, is not going to work. Because you should know. If you study this book, you do know. If you have a question you don't know the answer to, go to the book, and the book has the answer. You can find the answer here. And you can make the right decision, and you have an absolute duty to do that because you have an absolute duty to model an obedient relationship with God to your children. Because your children are going to watch what you do. And if you're obedient to God, they will be obedient to authority. If you are disobedient to God, they will be disobedient to authority. And there's no way to get around that. Well, it's no wonder that Mayberry, North Carolina was so peaceful and quiet. Nobody was married. Andy wasn't married, Aunt Bee wasn't married, Barney wasn't married, Floyd wasn't married, Howard wasn't married, Goober wasn't married, Gomer wasn't married, Sam wasn't married, Ernest T. Bass wasn't married, the Darling family, Helen, Thelma Lou, Clara, they were all single. Every one of them. And in fact, the only one who was married was Otis. And he got drunk every weekend to lock himself in bed. Now, guys, I'm not telling you to do that. Okay? Don't go out of here and say that I told you to get drunk every weekend and lock yourself in bed. That's not what I'm telling you. How do you stay obedient to God? You become a disciple, and you disciple your family. Being a disciple is far more than being saved. Discipleship, and this is from, I'll think of his name in a minute, this product of all my anesthesia and my old age. But he's a famous pastor, Andy Black, and he's in Dallas, Texas. And Tony Evans, that's him, Tony Evans. Discipleship is that developmental process that progressively brings Christians from spiritual infancy to spiritual maturity, so that they are then able to reproduce the process with someone else. The singular, overarching goal of a disciple is to bring all of life under the lordship of Jesus Christ, and then help someone else do the same. It is only when you reach spiritual maturity that all this makes any sense. And Tony says this is not an overnight process. He says that it takes at least 5 years of consistency to move from infancy to maturity. Now, the important word in that sentence is consistency. You can't be consistent for 6 months and then fall off the wagon and then pick up, and now you're in your 7th month. No. You're back in your 1st month again. You start it all over. Every time you fall off the wagon, you start all over. So you're going to have a 5-year period of consistency to go from infancy to maturity. So are some of us who have been Christians for 30 and 40 years who are still in infancy because we go along good for a while and then we fall off the wagon and we have to start all over again. Let's put this Christian versus disciple thing in this perspective. Jesus, and hear me well, Jesus does not have the same relationship with every Christian. And not everyone who says to him, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. Jesus related to 4 different groups of followers. The multitudes. They wanted showtime at the Apollo. They liked the emotional, feel-good atmosphere. They were religious crackheads that showed up for a good time. Then there were the 70, the 35 pairs Jesus sent out before him. You can read more about them in Luke 10 because that's the only place they're mentioned in the Bible. Then there were the 12. Called by Jesus personally. They spent their time with him. They were tutored by him. And yet, one ended up being a traitor. And most of the rest are never heard from again after Christ's ascension. Then there were the 3. Peter, James, and John. The inner circle. Matthew 17, and after 6 days Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. Now only 3 out of the multitudes got to experience it. And that's the difference between being saved and being a disciple. Being saved is that old adage, it gets you into heaven with your coattail sins. Being a disciple is what makes an impact here on this earth. It's what makes an impact, fathers, on your children, is being a disciple and discipling your children. Just being saved is not good enough if you're going to be the father your children need in this post-Christian America. Now, there are some who say, just get saved. Just get saved and everything will be great. No, Joel Osteen's lying to you. Just getting saved, everything's not going to be great. Even if you are saved, everything's not going to be great. Even if you are a disciple, everything's not going to be great. You're going to have joy, but you're still going to have hard times. You're still going to have turmoil, and you're still going to have to deal with children who are growing up in a society that is trying, much too often, harder than fathers are, to win your children to their point of view. Last but not least, fathers, you cannot compromise. Adam compromised and lost paradise. Moses compromised and lost the promised land. Israel compromised and lost the Ark of the Covenant. Samson compromised and lost his strength, his sight, and ultimately his life. Men, you simply cannot compromise when it comes to being a disciple and discipling your family. So you ask the question, well, why? And here's why. More statistics. I love statistics. Lawyers love statistics almost as much as accountants do. A leading study has found that if the father does not go to church, but the mother goes to church regularly, only 2% of the children will attend church regularly. 37% will attend irregularly, and 61% will not attend at all. But what happens if the father attends regularly, but the mother attends irregularly or not at all? And this is the shocker. 38% of the children will attend regularly if their father attends regularly, no matter what their mother attends. 44% will attend irregularly. In other words, if the father does not go to church, only 1 in 50 of the children from such families will become a regular church attendant. If the father goes regularly and the mother does not go, 75% of those children from those families will attend church at some level, and 38% of them will attend regularly. One of the reasons suggested for this is that children tend to take their cues about domestic life from mom, while their conceptions of the world outside come from dad. If dad takes faith in God seriously, then the message to the children is that God should be taken seriously. Amen. And vice versa. If the message they get from dad is God doesn't need to be taken seriously, then the children are going to believe God doesn't need to be taken seriously. The burden's on you. Statistics show the burden is on the father to keep his children in church. Now, this confirms the essential role of fathers as spiritual leaders. Fathers play the primary role in teaching their children the truth about reality. It is the father who should instruct his children in their understanding of the world from an informed Christian worldview. It is the father who is essential for sending his children forth with a biblical view of reality and a faith in Jesus Christ that is rooted in solid understanding. It is time for fathers to return to honorable manhood and reconsider their priorities and realign themselves with God's laws. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9. There's no better time to start that than today. Have a happy Father's Day. Thank you.
Last time he spoke, he challenged my heart. Today he did the same, and I pray he challenged you. In essence, we're called to get back to the fundamentals of God's Word. We're called to get back to the truth being the truth. We're called to get back. So I want to challenge you this morning as we come to a close. And I want to say to the men, I don't know about you, but I, even at my age now, look at my grandchildren and I shake my head. Young people in the middle, hey, young people, that's you too. Up here. I want your eyes and your ears. Don't distract anyone else. If you get back to the essentials and we look at our children and our grandchildren and we say, what role do I have? You just heard it. And I thank God for it. God has spoken to your heart as we have a time of invitation. You come. It doesn't just have to be men, to be families. Time to get back to the fundamentals. Would you pray with me? Father, as we absorb what we've heard, it comes straight out of your word, Lord, so this is not a philosophical discussion. This is not a debate, it's a decision. Challenge us. Challenge us as men this Father's Day to seek after the heart of God. Not to compromise, but to stand on God's word. Not to judge, but to love because of God's word. May us bring upon us now. In Jesus' name. Amen. Stand with me. As God speaks to your heart, you come and pray together. We're just about the need. Maybe men, some just need to come and join one another in a covenant before God. To go back to basics. Come. Sweet Lord, happy birthday, darling, come. Sweet and we sing where tides is falling, lead us to thee.
outside, and thank you, men's ministry, for doing the breakfast. And would you let our brother Greg King know how much his message. Thank you very much. It's not often I've heard that term, post-Christian society. I doubt many of you, my age and even younger, ever thought in America today we would confess to being in a post-Christian society. That we are. And we owe it. We owe it to these young people here whom we love. If I correct you, it's because I want you to listen, not because I don't love you. You're important to us. We want you to hear the truth, because the world doesn't want you to do that. We love you. Father, as we go from this place, thank you for that message. Thank you for the challenge. Thank you for the fact that, Lord, your word does not return void. And let us heed it. May we enjoy this day as families. May you bless each family represented. And for those families going through difficult times, Lord, and I know some are, would you just give them an extra touch of your hand of mercy? In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.